As part of the knowledge series, we are going to talk about the Union Budget 21-22, which has been released today. Union Budget is a most awaited document as far as the industry is concerned, and everyone was waiting after the economic survey was released as to what will be the flavor of Union Budget, though many of the challenges and opportunities and pressures on the government are very well known, and many of the economists have already hinted at what will be the line of action of the Union Budget. But even then, it is quite interesting that for the first time, I think in the history of India, for the year 21-22, we will be having a very high fiscal deficit of 9.5%. While the Union Budget is an effort to channelize financial resources to the various sectors of the economy so that the flow of funds goes seamless into various arteries of the economy. But it's very interesting that the Union Budget, taking cue from the economic survey, has highlighted key pillars. There are 6 pillars on which the Union Budget has been built upon. The first one is health and well-being. That is the first and the foremost, and as is expected, the healthcare allocations have been increased manifold. According to the finance minister, it is about 136% rise as far as allocations to the health sector is concerned, and many innovative modes have been rolled out, and I think if these take shape at proper time in proper geographies, I think the healthcare system can be upgraded to a great extent. The second pillar is physical and financial capital and infrastructure. That is the focus as far as the second pillar is concerned. And the third one talks about the inclusive development for aspirational India. And all sectors need to be developed to their potentiality so that we can not only emerge out of the crisis of the pandemic, but emerge and use it as an opportunity to increase our presence, our momentum of growth to a new high. The fourth pillar talks about reinvigorating human capital. So various schemes have been rolled out to ensure that the human capital is nurtured to their potentiality so that they can contribute to the growth of the economy. And the fifth one talks about innovation, research and development. Even the economic survey has advocated that a lot of private sector emphasis is required in the R&D area, research and development. I think the mindset needs to be changed that investment in R&D is the future of the country, and it needs to be pursued with a missionary zeal. And the sixth one talks about the minimum government and maximum governance. While the Union Budget talks about the 360-degree allocation of resources to different sectors of the economy, but we will be talking about how the financial sector is going to roll out in future and how Union Budget is going to influence the financial sector. So the most important thing that is going to come about is setting up of a development financial institution. If we can recollect, because of the Khan Committee recommendations, the structure of developmental financial institutions were dispensed with, and they have been converted into commercial banks. But commercial banks have one common characteristic, that they raise resources from the deposits of the public which come for a very short tenure, that is about 3 to 4, maximum 5 years. and most of the funds for a shorter duration. Whereas the finance to the infrastructure is a very long-term investment, and banks usually find it very difficult to manage the assets and liabilities, because the very characteristic of finance is the working capital finance and the infrastructure finance. Infrastructure finance is usually for a longer period of time, and it will be very difficult for the commercial banks to manage the asset liability mismatches, and the liquidity risks many times manifests because of the inbuilt gaps in the assets and liabilities of the banks. So it is a very thoughtful move that a developmental financial institution is proposed now with a capital of 20,000 crores, and it will augment various resources from various channels, and it is expected that in the next 3 years the developmental financial institution which is going to be set up will be able to finance about 5 trillion rupees to the infrastructure sector. That is the long-term funds. So that's a very good move in the union budget as far as the financial sector is concerned. The second thing is allocation of rupees 20,000 crores to provide capital infusion to the public sector banks, which are finding it difficult to adhere to the capital adequacy requirements of the banks. And now that Basel III norms are going to be implemented from 1st of April 2021, when the minimum capital adequacy ratio of the banks will be 11.5, and the aggregate capital adequacy ratio of the banks which are at about 15% before September 2020 are expected to go down to about 12.5 because of the large scale NPAs and the resultant dip in the capital adequacy ratio. So the banks will find it very difficult to manage minimum capital adequacy requirements, and minimum is not enough because the banks have to continue to lend, and the lending is much more important in a period of crisis when many of the entrepreneurs are looking for financial relief from the banks for loans of different sectors. So banks have to remain functioning. Capital infusion is one more announcement that has been made. And the third most important, and which is the most awaited announcement, is about formation of a separate asset reconstruction company by the government, that is like a bad bank. That particular asset reconstruction company which is going to be formed will take over the bad debts of the commercial banks. The banks which will be transferring a portion or the full NPAs to a separate entity will be relieved of the burden of non-performing assets. Their capital adequacy ratio will automatically go up because the risk-weighted asset in the balance sheet will come down, and they will be able to concentrate fully on the fresh lending, and they can energize the lending which is very much required at this point of time. But one flip side of formation of an entity which is actually the bad bank, but we can name it as asset reconstruction company, which will take over the non-performing assets of the banks, that it should be the integrated function of the banking system to lend and be able to recover the loans by using the available legal and enforcement tools. If the banks are not able to do that and they are accumulating mass of NPAs, I think we need to revisit the very point of how the quality of credit is originated by the banks, how the monitoring is being done, and how they are using the various recovery tools to recover the loans in time. So these are some of the aspects which have to be gone into, and this asset reconstruction company should be having a self-liquidating model, so that the banks do not rest on outside agencies for help, and they become independent as far as functioning is concerned. So that is the third one. And the fourth one is two of the public sector banks and one insurance company. It is proposed to divest the stake of the government. Now, in what form it is going to roll out is a matter of interest, because whether these two public sector banks and the insurance company will be privatized, or a portion of the equity will be sold to a private entrepreneur, or how it is going to be shaped up is to be seen. But lot of talk was going on about privatization of some of the public sector banks, and maybe that it will come in the shape of divestment initially. And the government has also announced about sale of its stake in IDBI Bank. IDBI Bank is governed by Companies Act 2013, that is, it is a private entity, and its stake is presently, mass of its stake is with LIC, and LIC is going to come for an IPO, initial public offer, and it is going to it will be raising the equity, and it will be very interesting to see how it is going to shape up in future. So the union budget talks about having 9.5% fiscal deficit this year, and lot of allocations have been made to the infrastructure, to the social sector, to the Manrega and other activities which are in continuation of the Atmanirbhar scheme that has been rolled out earlier. All these put together, the union budget is a very positive response of the government to the situation in which the economy is currently placed. And as a result of the emphasis that is built into the various measures of the budget, economy is set to revive much faster and will be able to catch up with the new stream of development, and it is not only going to end up at about 11% growth in the coming year, but maybe that it will be able to catch up new growth rates, provided second wave of infection doesn't affect the economy in the coming months. And I would request that all of you should put your views in the comment box if you have any points. This session we have only tried to navigate into the financial sector of the union budget, because the union budget itself is so exhaustive. It covers many sectors, and it will take time for us to discuss about each and every sector. So since I would like to talk more about the financial sector, I have tried to touch upon some of the key aspects that are going to change the financial sector in future. That is the formation of the developmental financial institution and the asset reconstruction company, privatization chance for for a couple of public sector banks, and also about the capital infusion of rupees 20,000 crores into the public sector banks. And these are all some of the changes that will affect the financial sector in future, taking cue from the union budget. Thank you very much.